indicating that a recession is unlikely in South Africa. South Africa posted 3.3% quarter-to-quarter growth in quarter 2 of 2016. For the year as a whole, a recession is not our baseline forecast. However, we should understand that there are risks both outside of the country and within the country that we need to recognize. To ensure that economic activity does not contract in the near future, government must continue with its policy reforms and must provide a stable business environment which supports a recovery in business and consumer confidence. The decline in the first quarter of 2016 was primarily driven by a sharp contraction in the mining sector due to lower iron ore and platinum production, reflecting temporary supply-side disruptions such as safety stoppages at some platinum and iron ore mines due to fatalities. Contractions in the transport, electricity, and agriculture sectors also subtracted from growth. The poor performance of agriculture was linked to drought conditions, while the performance of other sectors reflected the general economic environment and the strong economic linkages with mining and the agricultural sectors. Monthly data suggests that there will be a rebound in the second quarter, as we have seen, supported by a strong turnaround in mining output and robust growth in the manufacturing, production, and retail and wholesale sales. Despite challenges, the manufacturing sector is still expected to grow, as we've seen again from the evidence recently, supported by continued export growth in food and beverages, motor vehicles, and petrochemicals. The sector should continue to benefit from the competitiveness gains of real exchange rate depreciation over the last few years, as well as our proximity to Africa, well, we're part of the continent, and the improved growth rates, albeit gradual, in developed countries. Policy initiatives to boost private investment and reduce the cost of doing business, such as the Invest South Africa initiative and the 9 cities peer learning programs, as well as the continued support government provides to the manufacturing industries, should also support economic activity. This outlook is supported by the sustained 5-month improvement in the PMI, supported by an increase in capacity utilization rates to levels last seen in 2013. Although the August PMI fell just below 50 due to a sharp decline in the new sales orders subcomponent, actual sales orders, output, and employment at factories remained at July levels, whilst expectations of future conditions remained positive. Thank you.
The Honorable Buthelezi.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for elucidating on this very important question. Yesterday's news is indeed a welcome development of a 3.3% economic growth. My further question, Honorable Minister, will be, 1, what are the economic fundamentals that are required to be in place to stave off any future possible recession? And what other measures can be in place to enhance steady growth in the manufacturing sector going forward? Thank you.
Honorable the Minister.
Well, clearly, Madam Speaker, if we want an economy to grow, firstly, we must have the right level of confidence, as I indicated in my initial statement, from investors who believe both locally and overseas that we have a stable, predictable environment in which they can bring their money in. So are we as government, but also as all of the political parties and the general public, doing enough to create confidence in our economy, confidence in our ability to say to investors, you can come here, your money is safe, and indeed you will help us to create jobs in our environment. The second factor is actual growth in both local investment and FDI, and this is the work that in particular business, labor, and government have been doing for the past 7 months to ensure that we project a national front in respect of ratings agencies, confidence building amongst local and foreign business, and we hope that we can actually sustain that. Let me also say that whilst we survived, inverted commas, the first round of ratings, we are now about to enter the second round of ratings exercises. The first of the ratings agencies visits us at the end of September, the second sometime in November, and the third early in December. And again, we will be endeavoring as government to work with social partners, and it's a conversation that we need to have within this chamber as well. How do we present a united national interest front which will ensure that we can stave off a ratings downgrade again? The third is that we require those sectors of the economy that are underdeveloped, so for example, medium and small sized businesses, and those sectors that find themselves in difficulty over a medium-term period, like mining and agriculture, to be boosted in some kind of way. And fourth, remove the policy uncertainty and create a regulatory environment which will ensure that the ease of doing business in South Africa is actually one that everybody can see we are increasing in some kind of way. Finally, it's up to us to get the politics of this country right in order that we show to the world that we actually understand the link between a political environment to which all of us contribute and an economic environment that generates the right kind of confidence in ourselves and in the business sector in South Africa as well.
The Honorable Shibambu.
Thank you, Speaker. So the number of income earners in South Africa is drastically decreasing, meaning that we do not have as many people as possible who are involved in some sense of labor to earn income and provide for their families, meaning that poverty is increasing because there are so many people who are not employed. And manufacturing, I think that the WEF, the World Economic Forum, say that we have got a crisis now of automation and mechanization and all what they call it Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution, where you have got manufacturing sector which is highly automated, doesn't absorb as much people as possible to work. How are you going to deal with that challenge? Because in South Africa, our crisis is that our people are not working, we do not have income earners. You can have an expanding economy in the manufacturing sector, but it's not employing people. How are you going to deal with that decisively so that we do not have the continued jobless expansion of the economy? And lastly, do you agree that there must be a judicial commission of inquiry on the banks for closing the bank accounts of the corrupt Gupta families? Can you please respond to those two questions?
The Honorable.
I mean, one can only but agree with Honorable Shivambu that the number of jobs created, whilst good in the first 20 years of our democracy, is not adequate to give us a situation where most employable people are employed, most people that can earn an income are earning their own income, and the dependency on the state is actually reduced. We can also agree with Honorable Shivambu that poverty ultimately is going to be resolved not through the kind of welfare safety nets that we have, but by making sure that every economically active or potentially economically active person is actually employed either in a self-created job or in a job created by industry. Manufacturing used to be, 17% of the overall GDP numbers, went down to 11%. It's probably still approximately in that range. And throughout the world, the real danger is that in an effort to increase productivity, robotics and technology is being relied upon. But in our recent participation in the G20 meetings over the weekend in China, it's becoming very clear that there's no direct relationship between use of technology and creation of jobs. So there's no doubt that there's a crisis that we are heading for in the next 10 or 15 years, Madam Speaker, which would mean that there are less jobs created within in the formal sector. Manufacturing in South Africa still has potential to grow, largely because the depreciated rand should be giving South African manufacturers a leg up. To some extent, you can begin to see it in the numbers, but we need to also ask some serious questions about whether, as a society and as an economy, we are enterprising enough, dynamic enough, and have the right sense of urgency to seize opportunities that exist both within South Africa and outside. An area that we don't emphasize sufficiently, that we should focus on a lot more, it comes through the G20 discussions as well, is the small, micro, and medium-sized businesses. We need to do a lot more to support entrepreneurs, give them access to finance, create a supportive environment in our municipalities, and now that our municipalities are governed by parties other than my own in some areas, let's see what we can do in this regard, and we'll be interested to watch the evidence that actually emerges. Banking regulation is part of the brief that the Ministry of Finance has, and as far as we are concerned, we are compliant as South Africa, and amongst the best compliant, with international requirements which emerge both from the crisis, the Financial Stability Board, and other bodies incorporated in or accountable to the G20 forum. And our standards of regulation are as best as they can be. In some instances, we have regulations imposed upon emerging markets like our own because of factors that have been affecting advanced economies that are not really to our benefit. But we have fora such as the FSB and others where we can actually raise these sorts of issues. I think we also have the banking ombud, who has certain powers which perhaps need to be reviewed if there are customers that have problems with the banks. So as far as financial institutions are concerned, there's a difficult balancing act. Let me be frank, Madam Speaker. And the balancing act is between ensuring that there's stability in this sector, that it is well regulated, and that it doesn't constitute a risk to the country's economy and to the fiscus, as we've learned from the 2008, 2009 financial crisis. On the other hand, we need to be equally very aware that the banking sector can run away with itself. Its charges might be excessive, its customer service might be poor, its market conduct might be questionable, and as far as that is concerned, let's have a debate about whether we need to tighten the regulatory requirements. And before Parliament right now, Madam Speaker, is the Twin Peaks proposal and legislation, which is directed at ensuring that we have far stronger market conduct mechanisms in South Africa rather than the kind of fragmented arrangement that we currently have. So looking forward, I think we'll be in a much better place to ensure that consumers are given the right kind of deal on the one hand, and at the same time, the indispensable role of a well-run financial services sector is one that is maintained in line with both international standards and our own national interest in what is required here. And it's that balancing act that we, as the Ministry of Finance, who has the responsibility for stability within this sector, which we've assigned to the South African Reserve Bank as part of the banking regulator's mandate, which is financial stability. We will watch that area carefully. It's going to evolve over the next few years in line with the Twin Peaks legislation and other international and local arrangements. And let's see how that serves future generations better. Thank you.